Hey everybody, this is my final project presentation on my FPV racing drone. In this video I'm going to be talking about all the parts I made and how I constructed them, as well as a couple animations. So the first part that I made was the base of the drone, and this base has 6 different main parts, as well as some screws and bolts. So the 6 main parts on the drone base are the arms, the main base, the bottom base down here, the top base, the second top base, the columns, and these sides. I first started with the bottom base. I had to make a sketch of what I wanted the base to look like, and then take measurements for each holes and where they would go, and then I just extruded that. So from there I took this 3-hole pattern and I used that to make the holes on the bottom of my arm. It's the exact holes so that they would line up. And to make this, I just did a sketch with with 2 circles up here, and then I used the sketch fillet right here, and I made them tangent to one another and then trimmed them, and I added 2 more holes, one for the motor, and then one's just an extra hole. I went back to the bottom base and then I did a save as, and I made an exact copy of the bottom base so that I had 2, and then I was able to make take that exact copy and make the base, which you can kind of see the bottom base is still right here. So I went out and made a made a rectangle in the center of that, which I was able to then make the holes for the columns, and then the slots for that side base I'll talk about later, and then some other random holes to lose weight of the drone. And then just like what I did with the bottom base to make this base, I just made an exact copy of this base to make the top base. And I just cut those edges off and made it straight so that I kept my holes so that they were in the same exact spot. And then I changed up these holes. I kept these 2 slots and these 2 slots so that they would also line up. And then I changed these 4 holes, and these 4 holes. I changed all of those just so that it'd be kind of different and wouldn't look exactly the same. After this base was done, I went to do the sides for these where the slots would slide in at. I started with this sketch with just a rectangle, and I added some circle and some slots in there just to get rid of some weight and still have the depth there. And then I extruded that. Then I had to go to the top and I had to make these slots right here so that they could slide in right at the top and the bottom. So it would cut that just like that. And then I did the same thing for the bottom as well. And then the next part of the main base was the columns. These columns are just cylinders that I did a cut with the sketch that I did to make the jagged edges. Kind of makes it look cool and just kind of what it looked like in the picture. So I had to also make these holes for the screw to go into. I just used the hole wizard and tapped the hole, and then also used the hole wizard to make the threads on both sides. So after I had all those parts done, I was able to go back and start assembling them. This is what the finished product of the base looked like. I added all these screws in from a caster, as well as these nuts right here. The next parts that I started working on was the prop, the motor, and then the prop nut. And to start the prop, I originally just had a cylinder and then cut a hole through there so that I could fit the screw through there. And to make these props, I just made a rectangle. Right there's my rectangle sketch. And I did the rectangle out, and then I did this sketch right here to kind of make the blades have an angle to them, and then filleted the edges to give it the round shape. And then I was able to use a circle pattern to make the other two, kind of just like that. I also had to make the motor. The motor also, the actual motor has coils in it, but I didn't really want to spend the time to make the coils in it because spent so much time on this project already. So I just wanted to make it the outside of the motor, which I used the balls extrude to do a cylinder. I, d- I had 3 cylinders here. I probably could have did it in a different way, but I did 3 cylinders because when I made this, I wasn't as good as it was as I am now at SolidWorks. So I had to make, looks like I did 2 balls extrudes for the cylinders right down the center, and then I was able to use the helix to make these threads. And I did the same thing for the bottom. So the bottom nut will go down here, and then the prop nut would go up here, and the prop would sit right on top of here. Another part that I want to talk about that I found to be the most challenging was the prop controller. The challenging part was getting all of these twists and turns for these wires that come through. I had to use multiple planes to get it exactly right. I had to make 3 separate planes right here, and then I made plane 8, 9, and 10 to kind of get that angle going this way. And then this goes to the motor. When I put these on the assembly, I originally just had one, and then I didn't really think that it would be all that easy to make 3 more at different angles. So I mirrored these inside the assembly. So I had to make 2 different planes. I had to make one right through the center of the drone, and then another one through this center. So I mirrored this part across this plane to make this prop controller. And then I took those 2 prop controllers and mirrored them across this part of the plane to put them there. And they all lined up pretty evenly. I did have to make some screws for this. I didn't take all my screws from a caster. So I had to make this screw because I couldn't find the right size on the internet. I don't think I did this the easy way. I could have done it a different way. But I originally just had this sketch, and then I revolved it around that y-axis, and then I did another boss extrude for this cylinder down here, which is why I don't think I did it the easy way. I could have done it through the first sketch and just added that in. And then I did a helix on the bottom face right here, and then a cut sweep to make that thread. And then I made this hexagon cut right here so that you could put like an island head or something in there. I also had to make the prop nut for the top of the prop to hold the prop in. This one's just a sketch, and then I revolved that sketch around that y-axis. Then I used the whole wizard to make a tap hole and a threaded to make it threaded. And then that one just sits on top of the prop. I also have this controller that's just a couple extrudes and a couple cylinders that holding it together. It's not really nothing to get into, as well as this battery that's just an extrude and some fillets on the sides. I also did want to talk about how I made the camera. I just made a cube, and then inside that cube I made this sketch right here. I did some tweaking, that's why the lines don't really add up right, but that's how I started it originally. And then when you do a revolve sketch, it goes around. And then I did a cut right here so that there was kind of, it sunk in. This was the lens, and this was like the lens base to it. Then the part I don't think I've talked about yet is the antenna. The antenna I kind of did the same way as the prop controller. I just did these lines and then revolved around the line. And then I did that with different reference planes to get the angles on each one, and then to up here. Then I also had to have two of them, but they look different. They're opposite of each other. So I did a mirror on the reference plane that I made, plane one, so that it was exactly symmetrical to the other side. That concludes all the parts that I made in the assembly of my drone. I did have some exploded views to show you. There was a total of 19 parts that I had to make, and then 3 parts that I did take from a caster, which was just some screws and a couple, like a nut or two. And then 19 of the parts I did have to make. There was a total of 107 parts total in this whole thing. And that was the exploded view. And then I did have an animation that I thought was pretty cool. That took me a while to do, but it was worth the time. It doesn't go as fast and smoothly as I'd like, but I did get the props to turn. Right, that concludes my final project presentation. Thank you for watching.